Hi, I'm Carol Owens, and this is Stockbridge Updates. We're excited about the September 15th issue because we're growing. We're adding two sections, one called New Berkshire News and the other called Hill Updates. So what are they? Well, looking at American politics over the last 9 years, I have decided that ignorance is not bliss. And from the first issue of Stockbridge Updates, we have had as a primary goal educating the voters. It's really hard educating these days for two reasons. One, there's so much information. And two, there's so much misinformation. But luckily, there's a solution. Stockbridge Updates is expanding. And first and foremost, in New Berkshire News, we are including our neighbors. Now, there are many, many things that happen outside of the boundaries of Stockbridge that impact Stockbridge. And that's true for all the other 17 towns and villages in the Berkshire 3rd District. So we're expanding to include you all. And then the new section called New Berkshire News is going to be the news about our neighbors. Secondly, Hill Updates has to do with what in the world is going on in Boston. We should know it before it's kind of, a plow coming down the Mass Turnpike. So, what's in New Berkshire News this issue? First and foremost, we just had a primary election. And it's kind of interesting. As of 2022, which was the last time there was an official count, there were 95,000 registered voters in all of Berkshire County. Berkshire County is divided into 3 voting districts: Berkshire 1st, 2nd, and Berkshire 3rd. Berkshire 3rd in 2022 had 33,290 registered voters. On primary day, Berkshire 3rd was the only one with a contested race. We had 3 candidates, and 7,084 people voted. You know what? It's really true. The government is run by those who show up. And in this case, less than 20% of the voters, the people who could vote, did vote. 80% stayed home. We had a winner, Lee Davis. Of the 7,000 votes, she got 3,961, which is over 50%. Patrick White got 2,667, which is almost 38%. And Jamie Manassi got the remaining 6%. But 7,084 people decided who you can vote for in November. We should do better. Stockbridge Updates called town clerks in the Berkshire 3rd and asked 2 questions. The first was, does the low turnout surprise you? And uniformly, town clerks said no. The second question was whether it surprised you or didn't surprise you, why? And the town clerks explained that primaries confuse people. One voter who did show up, bless her heart, came over to the town clerk to complain that Kamala Harris was not on the ballot. She was very upset about that. Others simply forgot. And several called the town clerks to say, what's a primary? So simple. If there is more than one candidate who announces they want to run from a single political party, in Massachusetts we have two, Democrats and Republicans, then there is a runoff in that party. There were no Republican candidates, but there were 3 Democratic candidates. The September 3rd primary was just a runoff between the 3 of them, and I've given you the results. Let me say something about Berkshire 3rd, just so you get a mental picture. There are 18 towns in the Berkshire 3rd. 6 of them have less than 1,000 people in population. 5 of them have between 2,500 and 5,000. The biggest town in the Berkshire 3rd is Great Barrington. It used to include, Berkshire 3rd used to include Pittsfield. It does no more. Pittsfield is now in Berkshire 2nd, and Dalton, which used to be in Berkshire 2nd, is now in Berkshire 3rd. So we've got 18 towns, and 5 of them have between 2,500 and 5,000. 7 of them have 1,000 plus, and 6 of them have minus 1,000. It's a very rural, sparsely populated, kind of dirt road lined district, and we all love it that way, which brings me to what is the top article in Hill Updates, and that comes to us from Christine Rasmussen, who is the Stockbridge representative to the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. And Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is kind of the conduit between what's going on the state legislatively and grants available and our local towns. So Christine keeps track of this, and we bless her for it. And she told us about new legislation, which is a little bit scary for the voting district, the Berkshire 3rd, that I just described to you. Small villages, small towns, dirt roads, more trees than people. And now the legislation. Now, it's proposed as legislation to counter our climate change problem. This legislation is supposed to fix it. And there was a commission that made recommendations that they published on April 1st, 2024, and that was meant to be followed by legislation that would be passed before the session closed at the end of August, August 31st. This was not passed. It is still proposed. So those of you who like to be actively involved in your government, as soon as I explain the problem to you, we'll tell you how to act. They're proposing the necessity for 60,000 acres of alternative, clean, green energy to replace fossil fuel energy. 60,000 acres. Now, how much is that? Well, Lee, Massachusetts is 27,000 acres. And Stockbridge, Massachusetts is 23,000. So that's, if you take all of Lee and all of Stockbridge, level it, and put on windmills and solar panels, that'd be only 50,000 acres. So you'd have to find 10,000 more acres. People in Berkshire 3rd, in South County, feel strongly, Christine, our reporter among them, that they're going to look to Western Mass for where to find the 60,000 acres, because I don't know where there are 60,000 acres in downtown Boston available for solar panels. So they're going to have to look in a place, as I just described, off the beaten track, wooded, sparsely populated, underdeveloped. So the concern is that what we love about the Berkshires could be challenged by this legislation. And there's another piece in the legislation that's important for you to know. If you're alert and involved in politics, then you're saying, Carol, don't worry about it. We have local bylaws. We have local zoning bylaws. And those local zoning bylaws will protect us. There's things that you cannot do. Our local boards will have to review and approve any of these suggestions from the state. That's the second part of the legislation. Under the Healy administration, local control of zoning and bylaws mitigating the impact of changes are superseded, are overridden by the state as part of the Affordable Home Act that was passed and the Climate Change Act, which is now proposed and on the table. Local control is minimized or completely done away with, and completely overridden by a central zoning and bylaw board who will make the rules uniform across the state. Sadly, we're not uniform. We look very different from the rest of the state. Berkshire South does not look like Worcester or Lawrence or Boston or even Swampscott. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go to mass.gov. You can ask to see the climate control legislation. You can click on that. And if you find that you're concerned about the things that I have kind of synthesized here for you, then you can call Smitty Pignatelli or write our representative. And Smitty, regardless of the election, Smitty will be our representative till January. And you can call the other representatives in the Berkshire 2nd and the Berkshire 1st. You can also call our senator, who is Paul Mark, or again, email him. These email addresses are readily available. Just Google them and let them know that you want to know more, or that given what you know, you're concerned. And I will tell you that to the best of my knowledge, every single one of them, our representative from Berkshire 3rd, the representative from Berkshire 2nd and 1st, and our Senator Paul Mark, have all been fighting this diligently, but they are not clearly winning. So we'll have to see what happens next. First, the legislation has to be passed, and then we have to see whether or not it can be negotiated, the changes can be negotiated in any way. in the news from Stockbridge. The Affordable Housing Trust met. They now securely have in hand the 13-acre tract that was given by Hans Morris and his wife Kate to be used for affordable housing. And they are plunging in to figuring out what to do with it, how to develop it. They have used some of their funds to hire an attorney who is versed in housing law, and they have hired 2 consultants, one from Mass Housing Partnership and the other from Hearthway. And these people will be working with them. And the point is this, in all of real estate, whether you are a family that bought a piece of land and now you're going to build a house, or you are the Affordable Housing Trust and you're going to develop 13 acres, the first thing you'll learn is everything in construction is a trade-off. And so, should they build rental units? Should they build units for purchase? Should they build units with a rent-to-buy option? They all have consequences in what population you will attract, in how long that population, how transient that population is, or how permanent it is. Here's one. Should we build single-family housing, or should it be cluster housing? Trade-offs. One way, there's more density. The other way, the cost is higher. The Affordable Housing Trust has their work cut out for them. And I want to say, in closing, embrace the complexity. There's no point in getting mad at your representatives. All of us in Berkshire 3rd are governed by volunteers, by people appointed, people elected, and some permanent employees, some people hired. And I watch every meeting. I report on all that I think have some significant measures discussed. But I'm surprised by the anger. And I think one of the reasons not to get angry at the people trying to do the job is that it doesn't work. It isn't efficacious. Whatever decisions they're grappling with, they're very complex. What will the state allow? What do we have the money for? What can we do? And if we do this, what's the impact? What's the immediate impact? What's the long-term impact? We are so lucky in how many people volunteer to help run our towns, leave their homes at night, give up a social event to go and sit in a meeting. And we should thank them, and that doesn't mean for 1 minute that we lose our voice. You tell them what you think. You ask them what they think of what you think. And everybody listens to everyone else with respect. And by gosh, I think the best decision comes. Now, I'm going to sign off, but in our new policy of Stockbridge updates, that we acknowledge our neighbors. I just want to say that Lee Founders Day weekend, which is September 27th and 28th, I think it starts on the 26th in the evening, and it's lots of fun. It's a street fair, and year after year it gets better and better. The food is great. The music is wonderful, and bless their hearts, everybody there is happy and smiling. So come on over to Lee, and this is Stockbridge Updates signing off.